If I told you I was about to talk about a game with outlaws set in 1899, robbing trains and crazy unpredictable events, you'd probably think I was talking about the hit game by Rockstar Studios, Red Dead Redemption 2. But I'm not going to be talking about that today. In fact, I'm going to be talking about something potentially more innovative and more beautiful and more spectacular even than that. Today, I'm going to be talking about Colt Express. Colt Express is a game played in a format unlike anything else I've ever tried, in that it's not played with cards, it's not actually played on a board, it's not played with tiles. In fact, the whole game takes place on a train. Choo-choo! Colt Express tells the story of 2 to 6 bandits trying to bandit a train in order to get the most money possible. And really it's as simple as that in terms of the premise of the game. And anybody who starts trying to play it will know that from the beginning and won't have any trouble having any idea what they're trying to do. The cards that you can play are fairly simple. You can move vertically to and from the roof and carriage. You can move horizontally from carriage to carriage. You can pick up some of the sweet loot from the floor. You can punch a player in the face in the same carriage as you, which causes them to drop some of their precious loot. You can shoot a player in an adjacent carriage, or anywhere on the roof, if you're both there, which dilutes their deck for future rounds and pushes you towards the elusive goal of ridding yourself of all your bullets in order to make an additional $1,000, for some reason. Or you can move the Marshal, a handsome and powerful blonde man who riddles you with bullets and forces you to escape to the roof if you ever have to share a carriage with him. And this is where the real excitement of the game takes place, because either you'll be sat there smugly because everything that you wanted to happen has actually taken place, or everything has gone horribly wrong because your friend punched you in the face at just the wrong moment, and it's frustrating, but you're laughing and everybody else is laughing, and that's what makes the game so good. And this part of the game is my favourite, absolutely. Not doing well. Doing well is, so-so, that's fine, that's the same as any other game. But doing badly is when you are shooting at nothing and you just wasted part of your turn, or punching the air, which is one of my favourite things to do, the old swing and a miss. Because the idea of that actually happening in the game, or in real life, is ridiculous. The idea of somebody, deciding a long time in advance, oh yes, no, I'm going to punch no matter what happens. It's fantastic. The most frustrating part is when you run into the Marshal. And if you run into the Marshal, he jumps you straight up into the roof. But if you're not planning for that to happen, which nobody ever is, then this can just happen repeatedly. You just keep going down. You keep trying. You keep going down into the carriage, getting shot. You get thrown back up to the roof. You go back down into the carriage. You get shot again. And it's the most wonderful, horrible experience trying to do it that only board games can bring. I only really have a couple of gripes with the game. One of them is that it can be a bit fiddly when you're actually implementing your turns, and for somebody with a not particularly steady hand, I had a lot of problems just knocking things over and out of the way and not really quite knowing where things then should go. Another thing that I have a bit of a problem with is that as much as I love these bits of scenery, I think they really add something to the whole aesthetic of the game. I think it's beautiful to think of where this train is travelling through. But when you come to actually move your pieces around, if you've got your scenery kind of higgledy-piggledy everywhere, then whenever you go to move your character, you can find these things getting in the way. I can't really show a good example of it now because I'm thinking about it, but when you're actually playing the game and you're thinking, right, where am I going, this can become a problem. My second issue with this game is that, as fun as it is, it doesn't really fill out an entire evening. So if you're planning on having some friends over to have an evening of board games, as excellent as this is, you might want to have it amongst some other games, or introduce the base game and then follow it up with one of these expansions. Colt Express has 2 expansions currently available. Sadly, I can only talk about one of them properly since I've only played the second one once and it didn't belong to me. But Horses and Stagecoaches adds possibly my favourite simple mechanic into any board game that makes it feel more real. The Colt Express train has a beautiful look to it, but you never really get the sense that the train is moving until the introduction of the stagecoach, which starts adjacent to the front of the train and at the end of each round moves one carriage back as it moves relatively slower than the train itself. And if that doesn't really excite you, then you are the problem with the world. Inside this stagecoach are hostages that can be used to make even more precious money, and it's guarded by the shotgun, similar to the marshal, who just wants to shoot you for further inconvenience. This expansion also introduces horses, which help you to move further up and down the carriages in a shorter time, because beforehand it was quite difficult to do so. These horses do make the game a little bit more fiddly, but it adds so much more in terms of aesthetic, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Giddy up, yeehaw. Ultimately, if you find there to be anything interesting about robbing a train with your friends and seeing who can make the most money, then I can only recommend this game. And it's fun, it's simple, and it's frustrating, but only in a way that you can laugh at.